Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming at you live for another Film Fanatic show. I've been kind of on a tear lately. I've been doing a lot of videos, and I kind of got myself bogged down here. I recorded a bunch of videos the last few days, and then I went to upload the videos, and I don't usually do as many. I don't usually do so many in one sitting, but I was like felt really inclined and excited about some of the movies I've been watching and some of the things I've been wanting to talk about. So then I went ahead and tried to upload all the videos, and one of them is kind of stuck in this weird purgatory. So I'm hoping it will come through and fully upload. If I don't, if it doesn't work, I'll just have to redo it. But anyway, today is the first snow day of this winter season. We got the first day off from school. Got the call or got the email from my boss, and it was predicted yesterday or a few days ago that we were getting this big snowstorm, and it's snowing pretty hard right now. So it's kind of cool to have a little snowstorm. I'm a big fan. I'm not a fan, of the cold so much, but I do like snow. I do like the snow a lot. It makes me want to listen to a lot of black metal. Puts me in a black metal state of mind. But anyway, I wanted to do a show on kind of my anticipation of the new Quentin Tarantino Kill Bill saga that's being re-released, and it's entitled "The Whole Bloody Affair," and it's coming out this Friday. And my goal is to go see it on Saturday with a buddy of mine. And originally we were going to go see it last week, and I posted a video about the whole thing. But we got there, we were going to go. We went down to this really beautiful theater in Waterville. That's now it's a like an art center that Colby College down there has kind of built, and it's this like really beautiful facility. And it was my first time there, so we drove down to Waterville on Friday and realized we screwed up the date, and the date was totally well. We got the wrong date, and the movie wasn't actually coming out until this Friday. So it was pretty funny. We made the best of it, and then we ended up going to see the new Knives Out movie, which was really good, really really awesome. I uploaded a video review for the new Knives Out film. Really good. One of the best in the series. I wasn't a huge fan of the second one. I thought the second one was okay, but it was a little bit, I don't know, self-indulgent and didn't really seem to have that flair that the first one had, which I love. And this third one is really really good. I think I don't know, it's really good because I think it's got some newer elements, and it's got a little bit more of a kind of horror element. It's kind of got this gothic horror vibe, which I thought was really cool, and very much a great kind of murder mystery, Agatha Christie kind of vibe. And it's very funny too. It's got a lot of great humor. So really cool balance of all these different things. So we made the best of the situation, but fingers crossed, this Saturday will be the day that we get to go see the uh, the Kill Bill saga. So I'm super excited. I have a long history. So I wanted to do a show today, since I have extra time, on my anticipation for this whole thing. I saw and I read a thing about it online. It was a little interview that Quentin Tarantino had given, and it was probably about, I don't know, it was around early October or so. It was the first I had heard about it, and he was talking about Quentin Tarantino was talking about releasing Kill Bill 1 and Kill Bill 2 together, and it was going to be kind of re-edited, and there was going to be added scenes and some new things put into the movie, and it was going to be released as basically one giant movie, and it was going to be put out in December of this year. And at first, I thought it was, maybe some kind of stupid AI, fake kind of thing. But then I realized, no, no, this is real, and I read more about it, and I was like, holy shit, that's wild. And I remember telling a couple of friends about it, and they were like, wow, like that's, yeah, they were totally on board, and I was really excited. Once I found out it was actually true and not fake news, I was, super excited. But I didn't think, because it's such an ambitious thing. I mean, you're talking each movie, Kill Bill, and then Kill Bill 2. I mean, they're each about. It's been actually a long time since I've seen those movies, but they've been. I mean, their runtime is, I'd say close to 3 hours each. I could be wrong, give or take a few minutes, but they're both pretty long films. I mean, they're both epic films. So combining them plus with extended scenes, like you're talking a good 5 hours, 5.5 hours. So it's an undertaking, but in this interview and I have read more about this release. Quentin Tarantino said that this was what he's always intended. He always intended for these movies to be, well, essentially one movie, one big giant, novel. So one big giant epic. So he wanted to, initially release this whole thing like this. But I mean, that's pretty wild. That's pretty risky. It takes balls. It's really kind of daring and potentially, you know, death as far as making money in the box office because that's a lot of time. That's a lot of that's a lot of effort and focus you got to put in on a movie or movies to sit for 5 hours straight in the theater. For me, that's that's okay. I mean, I'm down with it. If I'm into the movie, I don't really care. I don't really care about the length of something. I mean, that's a thing now that a lot of people complain about just your general length of films. And I do say, or I do think that some films now are on the longer side. I mean, I just did a little show last night on the the new Avatar movie that's coming out. I think on December 11th. The new Avatar Fire and Ash film, which is the third in the franchise, which is supposed to be. I think by the end of this whole thing, it's supposed to be like 5 to 7 movies or something. Like it's just crazy. And I was watching some out of the trailer reactions. Some people got to go see Avatar Fire and Ash really early, and one of the guys, one of these YouTube guys who had gotten to see the movie, said that this movie was 3 hours and like 19 minutes, and I was just like, "Fuck, one movie like that's just like that's fucking outrageous." Like I couldn't believe it. So that spawned on this idea of wanting to talk about that, and just a general thing around, you know, it's a thing that people complain about, and I get it, the length of movies, because I do think, you know, in general, I mean, especially when you hear things like that, like, that one movie is going to be, close to, over 3 hours. Like, that's kind of crazy. And my first thought was like, man, I don't know. Like, I wasn't really interested in seeing this movie because I have very mixed feelings about the Avatar movies, and I did a video and I just uploaded it. There's some really good things about the films that I really like a lot, and then there's a lot of things I have issues with. But my first reaction when I heard that the new Avatar movie was 3 hours and 19 minutes, I was just like, geez, can you say self indulgent? Like, holy mackerel. But anyway, speaking of lengths, the Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair is going to be very long. But I'm really, really, really excited to see it. I really, really want to see it. So, fingers crossed, everything works out. We're going to go see it on Saturday. And it starts at like 6 o'clock. and goes till like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours later. So I will definitely do a show on my whole experience. I've had some experiences where, well, like, I mean, as far as length of movies, that's nothing really new for me. I mean, there's been times where I've been able to watch 3 or 4 movies in a row, no problem. After 2 movies, you can start getting a little bit fatigued. I mean, I like when I watch a movie, I generally like to try to be, pretty alert and try to focus on what's going on. Depending too on what the movie is. I mean, sometimes you want a movie that is just kind of like, you don't have to like. It can be kind of background, but you can kind of just chill out and have it going. Have it playing. And in some movies, you're like, it might be pretty serious and it's pulling you in, and you have to like think about what's going on, and you really have to kind of engage with it. And some movies have a little bit of both. And sometimes when a movie is maybe that kind of engrossing, if it's at a certain length where it's like over 2 hours, it can get a little taxing, or maybe it could be a little bit, tiresome for obvious reasons. But generally, I don't. If I like a movie, I don't really care or think about the length of something. I don't really. It's not. It's a non-issue for me. But I do think, generally now there's a lot of movies that are probably a little too long, and I'm not sure why that's a thing now. But it's funny because going back to kind of the golden period of Hollywood. When you think of movies that were coming out in the 50s and 60s, and even like all of the great westerns that were coming out, you know during that time. Movies like Giant or Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, all those kinds of epic, American films. When you look back at a lot of those films, I mean, those movies are pretty long. Like they're pretty long. And there was a time also when a film would be playing at your local theater, and people would go with the whole family, and they'd spend the whole day in the theater. Like they'd go see 2 movies, even going back to the Grindhouse days, two or three movies in one setting. And it was a typical thing of like back when you had big American Hollywood classic films come out, where people would spend a whole day in the cinema, and movies were typically long. They were like these big kind of sweeping sagas, and then it felt like lengths for films did get significantly shorter, maybe by the 80s or 90s, but now it seems to be a thing that length is definitely a part of it. So I don't know. It just depends. I mean, I don't really care or have an issue with that. Sometimes, if the movie is too long and the movie isn't obviously quite that good or quite, really engaging, it will drag ass, and you will be, you will look at the watch, you look at the clock, because that does happen. There is times of where, that can definitely happen. But from what I've heard about this Kill Bill saga, is that there's going to be added scenes, and I guess the ending, from what I heard, there is going to be somewhat of a different ending for Kill Bill, the first one. So I'm super excited. I mean, I think I'm a big Tarantino fan. The only movie I think in his whole career that I'm not a big fan of, I honestly think it was the only movie he's done that's kind of a misfire, and that is Death Proof with Kurt Russell, which, again, was a real big surprise. I got to see that for the Grindhouse special that came out years ago in the theater, and the Grindhouse, the whole event was amazing. Speaking of spending a lot of time in the theater, that was amazing because and it was in select theaters. And they had it at the Colonial Theatre, which is in Belfast, right here in Belfast. And I remember going to see it. And the Grindhouse thing was really, uh, it was one of the funnest times I ever had going to the theater, because it was Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino both made these kind of exploitation movies. And so it was those 2 movies shown back to back, plus all of the Grindhouse, plus all of these kind of newer, Grindhouse trailers for movies that were not going to actually come out, and then some movies that did come out. There was a trailer for Robert Rodriguez Machete that did eventually come out, and then also Thanksgiving by Eli Roth, which eventually did come out, and there was a handful of other ones, and it was the whole experience was so awesome. But that whole thing bombed in the box office. Like, nobody went to see it. I remember going to see it at the Colonial, and there was like maybe 5 or 10 people, and I went to an early show, like it was on a Saturday, and I spent the whole day there. And they had a little intermission in between, but it was so fun. And I remember when that whole thing came out, nothing had been done like that in a really, really long time. I mean, that's pretty ambitious, but to me, it's like that's as much fun as you can have. And it was great. It was super fun. Planet Terror from Robert Rodriguez is such an amazing movie. I think that movie blew Death Proof out of the fucking water. But it was still fun to see Death Proof there in that context, and it was especially fun to see the trailers, you know. And to think, in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s, that experience was so commonplace to go to the movies and spend a whole day or spend a whole night and see these trashy, sleazy movies back to back. I mean, amazing. Or go see, some, cheesy kung fu movies. So, it was so awesome. And so it was like a glimmer of, or a little, I don't know, piece or feeling of what it was like to probably experience going to the Grindhouse back in its heyday in the 70s and 80s. I've often said that if I had a time machine, if a time machine, was something that was a real thing, that would be one of the things, that would be one of the times that I would want to go back to, would be, go back to have the chance to go to New York City in like 1981 or 1980 and go to all these like sleazy fucking theaters on 42nd Street and experience that time. That would be my first choice if I had a time machine. I know it's kind of funny, but to get that experience with the Grindhouse, with the two movies, it was a great experience, and I always like, and that's rare. You never have that experience anymore. And I remember when that whole thing came out and it was released and it bombed. It totally bombed. It was a total, and everybody at that time was complaining. The number one reason, I mean, both those movies got pretty good reviews, but people were just not into that idea of basically pitching a tent and hanging out at the movies all day. So things are very different. And now, fast forward many years later, things are that much more different. So it's interesting. It's interesting. But I'm really excited to see if Kill Bill and Kill Bill 2 is going to be quite, if it's going to be a lot more, if it's going to be a very different experience. But because I did hear that um, there is some new scenes, a possible new ending. I heard that there is a animated sequence in this movie, which sounds fucking insane and amazing. Of course, David Carradine, Uma Thurman, Lucy Liu, and again, I actually have not seen either of these movies in a really long time. I did see Kill Bill, the first one, and also Kill Bill 2. I saw both of those in the theater twice. I remember going to see Kill Bill when it came out in the theater with my great friend Sean, who has actually been on the show before. We went to this really awesome theater by his house when he lived down in Portsmouth, somewhere in New Hampshire. We went to the matinee. We went early. It was like a early screening, like at 11:30 or noon. And we were just blown away. It was just absolutely amazing. I mean, it was just so good. It was everything I expected, but better. And then I don't know. It was like 2 years in between movies when the second part, Chapter 2, came out. I I saw that as well. And I remember seeing Kill Bill a second time, I don't know, a few weeks after that here locally at Flagship. And then the same thing the with Kill Bill Part 2. I remember seeing that both in the theater. And I own them, but I own Kill Bill on Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray is kind of fucked up and it doesn't really play. It's the only movie I bought at Goodwill. I mean, sorry, at Bull Moose, and it really in my history since I've gone there, and I've bought so many fucking movies there over the years. It's the only movie I've ever bought there that didn't play. It like gets to about, you get to maybe an hour into the movie and it's all scratched. I don't know what happened, but the disc is defective. So I was super pissed because it's a beautiful edition of that movie. I never brought it back. I always, I just end up getting, I end up just forgetting to do that. And then so I still have it. So I haven't actually seen Kill Bill in a really long time, which is crazy because I think it's such a masterpiece. I mean, it really is. And then I have Kill Bill 2 on DVD, and I've seen that a few times as well. And Daryl Hannah's in that, of course. Can't forget Daryl Hannah. But just such an amazing film because they really are one movie. Or this experience, like with what Tarantino is saying that was the intention, is to make this, to have it as one kind of movie going experience. And it's, this movie was such a new thing for Tarantino because it was the first, his first action movie essentially where he's like, you know, dove fully into films that have these elaborate, gorgeous, set pieces, but the unbelievable choreography. So he used the same stunt team and stunt coordinators, I believe, that were on the Matrix films. Wu Ping did all of the wire work and all the fight choreography. He choreographed all of the fight sequences in the movies, and he was, Wu Ping was a an iconic person, one of the greatest fight choreographers, in so many classic Asian movies. And then when The Matrix that really came out, that really, escalated his career. And so that's from what I remember is he did all of the work for the Kill Bill movies. So yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait. I'm gonna see how it all goes. And I'll definitely do a big ass show about it because there'll be a lot to talk about. And again, it was the first movie. I mean, Tarantino has always talked about his love of grindhouse movies and Hong Kong action movies, and so this was like a combination of all those things. Because it's very much steeped in kind of the exploitation world, Asian cinema, Asian action films. So I can't wait. I can't fucking wait. Hopefully everything works out and we actually get to see it. But anyway, I just wanted to do a little video on my anticipation to see this new saga, the Kill Bill, the whole bloody damn affair. And yeah, I just wanted to share my immediate thoughts about it. So, peace. Enjoy the snow if you're in Maine or wherever you are.